Hi everybody, this is going to be the first video on my channel, The Corporate Goodie, and I'd like to share with you my first luxury bag which I ever bought with my own savings. And she is none other than the Chanel Classic Flap. Ta-da! I'm going to be breaking my video into a few parts, so feel free to click on the parts which interest you the most. So, we're going to start with the why, followed by the what, followed by the when, and then the where. I've never actually really been into luxury items. I always thought that, they were a waste of money, it's just too expensive, and, I'm not somebody that likes to chase for status, even though I work in the corporate scene here. But don't get me wrong, I really like things which are beautiful, right? So, and who doesn't? So many times I would walk into like a luxury store, even if it was like the more entry levels like Michael Kors or Coach, and I would always feel very intimidated. I really liked trying the pieces there, but looking at the prices, I just couldn't justify ever putting that much amount of money into a sole single item which, I may not use forever and may not have any resale value if, let's say, I were to get bored of it. But it all kind of changed back in, I believe, December 2022. So my then boyfriend, now husband, actually brought me into a Michael Kors store around here, and then I did see an item on sale and I thought it was quite unique. I will share more about that bag, I still have it, but that was the start of, that kind of kick-started the journey of me really researching into different brands, the leather that's used, the whole story behind it, and somehow just kept gravitating back towards Chanel. There was just something about the classic flap that just really intrigued me, and the more I knew about it, the more I loved it, especially the vintage pieces. So there are three main reasons why I decided to go with this vintage piece as my first luxury handbag which I bought with my own savings. First reason, I was looking for something that was timeless. Nothing that was trendy, nothing that was too fancy, and I think this fit the criteria and it has its unique charm to it. And because it was a vintage piece, so it was a little bit, it was more within my budget as compared to buying something new. I had totally nothing against buying secondhand at the time. It's just a lot more research was needed to make sure that I checked, the condition of the bag together with what came with it to make sure that I was getting my money's worth. I wanted this piece to be a bag which I could pass on to my daughter, if let's say I were to have one, right, in the future. So even though it was like, it's like an old little lady, but I think it has such a beautiful charm to it, being vintage. And working in corporate, I would say I needed something which could go well if I were to go for any functions. I think some people might say, oh, why not? Why did you not consider the Lady Dior, for example? But somehow the Lady Dior, I felt it wasn't as practical if let's say I were to want to use it in a more casual setting. If let's say I were to go to the mall, a Lady Dior doesn't seem as practical. Even with the zipper or the flap, it just wasn't something that I like to meddle with. But of course with the Chanel flap as well, as many of you know, it has a double flap right here, right? So even this is also a little bit impractical, So, but I'll get a bit more on the utility of this bag in the later parts of the video. But yeah, that sums up the why on why I ended up buying this bag. Now, let's talk a little bit more on what I bought. Pretty obvious, I know, I bought the bag, right? So, what I wanted to go through actually was more of the specifications of the bag, together with what else came with the bag when I purchased it. So this is a S2 Chanel Classic Flap. It has the double flap, the signature double flap, and inside it has the maroon kind of lining. And yeah, it came pretty clean. Let me show you. Yeah, it came pretty clean, I would say. It came with the, what's it called, the authenticity card. And yeah, everything seemed pretty neat. There were no major scratches. Of course, I'll just show this to you. You can see there's a few, there's a few little it's a few little lines here and there, but for me I think it's just part of the charm. And a few dimples, right? I think some people may not really like the dimples, but for me I think it's actually quite okay. It's not too dimply. Yeah, and here's the back. You can see actually it's still quite shiny. I really like this kind of leather. It's shiny, it's not too dry, and of course it still had its I would say the integrity of the bag is still pretty good. It stands straight, it's not lopsided. Maybe I'll show you, maybe I'll put a picture here on how the side profile looks like. But yeah, it stands pretty well on its own. And of course, about this bag being vintage, right? So Chanel used to actually use 24K gold to plate their hardware. So all this yellow that you see here actually is 24K gold. Now, don't confuse this. This itself isn't fully gold, right? This whole thing isn't 24K gold. The plating is 24K gold. I've seen a few sellers which say, oh, this bag, they're using 24K gold. I think that's a little bit misleading. It's 24K gold plated, right? Yeah, 24K gold plated. It's different. Okay, but you can see just how yellow it is, right? I think it's just beautiful. When I compare to the ones in the retail, the more recent kind of one stitch that were produced, right? It's just different, you know. It's no longer that really beautiful kind of gold yellow. It's that a little bit more matte, like a champagne. And I've seen many reviews that actually the champagne kind of tone, it rubs off quite fast, especially on this knob here, because this is a high use area, right? But this bag, you know, the vintage one, I think, I don't know, it's just so gold and so beautiful. I just love it. Okay, so what else did I get together with the bag? So I got the bag, I got the authenticity card. Put this aside, I have the original dust bag, I believe. It's the original dust bag, you know. So you can see this is still so beautiful. It's not faded like many of the others that are around this age. So I'm pretty happy with this one. Okay, got this dust bag, and I also have the original box. And one thing about this original box, even the box has a charm to it, you know, which kind of sold me even further to buy it. Actually, it has the original sticker, the original kind of product sticker here together with like the barcode, and I still haven't removed it because I think it just adds to the charm of it. And for me, it just kind of solidifies a bit more on its authenticity, right? Okay, so yeah. Let me just open up and show you. Usually the hollow is at the bottom. Yes, you see this little thing there? Yeah, that's the hologram. Okay, so these are all the indications of a full set. It's just I don't expect it to be a receipt, right? Or a bag, the original bag, which I'm totally fine with that. Okay, it's getting a little bit cloudy now, and the lighting is not too great, you know. I'm relying on actual lighting. So my videos are a little bit apologies if my video is a bit not clear, but I do really want to show you a bit more close up of this bag. Maybe you can see the condition of it, right? You can see this, you know, this one has a little bit of a different color compared to this. I'm not too sure why. You can see it's still pretty smooth. There are certain pieces, right? I think there was once I had a scare because okay, I've been, so my family also likes, I wouldn't say everyone, but my sisters also like leather bags. They like leather products. So they did give me like a leather, it's called like a polisher or cleaner or moisturizer. And I used it for this, for when I used it the first time, it was quite okay. You know, it looked like a beautiful black color, so shiny, right? Then the following week, I applied it again. But I think when I applied it, I shouldn't have been so rough when I was moving the excess. Because what happened was there was like, started to have, how would I put it, like it became even more dry. But now actually I started to tone down on not polishing it or moisturizing it too much, and I think it's still, you know, I just keep it, I just store it in my cupboard, just sitting like this upright. Just sitting upright like this, right? I don't want to put the chains, over like this, because I'm worried that if I leave it like this, because of gravity, because it's standing upright, right, I don't want it to leave like a dent here. So I just leave it like that, kind of just resting like that, yeah, in my cupboard. I have no stuffing inside, and so far it seems fine, you know, but I probably should. I do have the stuffing, I'm a bit lazy to put it in because I want to use the bag sometimes without having to take out all the stuffing and everything. Okay, you can see, yeah, this is the capacity of it. It's honestly, it's not a lot. It's not a lot of room. You can fit like a card holder, your phone, you know, a few lipsticks here and there. I don't put it here because I don't want to stretch out the leather too much. Yeah, you can fit like a comb. Yep, yeah, my comb's right there. Fit a comb. Yeah, then in the back pocket you can fit like parking tickets and everything. You know, oh my god, it's so dark. Parking tickets. Show this. Yeah, parking tickets. Yeah. Of course, you can't compare this to like your everyday kind of tote bag where you can just dump everything inside. You know, this bag isn't meant for that. This bag is meant to be, you know, part use and also part to just like a really beautiful accessory to just a normal kind of outfit. You know, imagine just wearing this with a normal white tank top and jeans, long jeans, and you add this, it just, I don't know, I just feel like it elevates the look. So yeah. Yeah, so this is older than me. Actually, it's older than me, and it's a 30-plus-year-old bag, and just look at it, it's still so beautiful. I believe the owner did take a lot of care on it. I've seen those which have a bit worse condition, and I think the one that I got was pretty alright. It's not the best, of course, but I think it's still pretty alright. So you'll notice with Chanel, they have the S1, S2, S3, and S0, and even the ones prior to having the hologram, right? They call it pre-holo. So when I spoke to the pre-loved bag seller, they told me that the leather used for each season, of course the batch is going to be different. So you may see differences in the color of the bag, especially for the vintage models. Because when I went to shop for the Chanel Classic flap for a vintage one, I did notice that the S1, S2, and S3, the few which I saw, the color of the leather actually was quite different. I believe the S1 or the S3, it's only like 1 or 2 years difference with S2 in terms of production, right? But you can tell the leather for, I forgot whether it's S1 or S3, but the color of the leather was a bit more blue. It had a blue kind of green hue to it, whereas the S2 I noticed consistently, even with its age, it's still pretty black, which I really like. The black color is still really strong. So actually there are a few times where I've seen a few pre-loved sellers, right? They will show like a bag, and then I'll be like, oh, that looks like an S2 leather, and then when I scroll to the page, I see, oh, it is S2. So there really is a difference, which I think you might want to take note of. If let's say you want something a bit more black in color, then maybe S2 would be better. Or if you don't mind a little bit more a bit more blue or green hue, then maybe S1 or S3 is okay for you as well. I'm not too familiar with the other season releases like S4 and above. Somehow I don't really come across a lot of Chanel Classic flaps in those seasons. I'm not too sure why. Now, next part, let's talk about the price. So how much did I buy this for as a whole set? So I bought this at let me think, 19,000 ringgit. Okay, I'll convert that into a few other currencies for you to compare. But yes, I bought it in Malaysian ringgit for this full set, and I bought it back in 2023 December. So it's almost been 2 years of me having this bag. I believe the prices for a similar bag with this similar set, I believe has dropped over the years. Dropped a few thousand. So I did see a few which were like, oh, there's so much selling like 2-3k cheaper than what I bought it at. I'm not too sure what's the reason for the fall in the price. Didn't really follow up too closely, but either way, I'm still pretty happy with my purchase. I still think it's a really worthwhile purchase, although yes, it's a really big upfront cost. 20k is almost 20k is a large sum in Malaysia, and for me to drop it like that, I work really hard in corporate, and I've earned my money from there, and I think I'm just really happy with this purchase. I think for the first few days after I bought it, I even left it out, in the open on my study table, just staring at it sometimes just to admire the beauty of it, and nowadays I still do. One challenge which I really faced when I first bought this bag was actually trying to use it. So because it seems very fragile, right? So I was really scared to bring it out because I was scared, I would scratch it, because I don't have long nails, but I still have nails, right? I could scratch it. I'm quite clumsy, and I do have I wear rings with like diamonds or whatever gemstones, and they're sharp, right? And they might scratch it as well, or I might leave it on a dirty surface. I don't need to have stains. But I realized that that's not the purpose of having such a bag. You want to enjoy the bag and not just keep it for display, and that's not the purpose as to why I bought it. I wanted to enjoy the bag. So yeah, nowadays I'm not too particular. Of course, I don't purposely whack the bag around, right? But I just make sure that after I use it, I give it a quick wipe with the dust bag. I'm not sure whether it helps, but I heard that this is the purpose of the dust bag. Just wipe it, just to make sure that it's clean and not too many oil stains from your fingers, etc. Right, just wipe it and make sure that there's stuffing inside, because you don't want it to, make sure that you retain that shape of the bag. Okay, yeah, and I think I've really enjoyed using this bag for the past 2 years. I would say I've used it, maybe brought it out more than 10 plus times, which I think is pretty okay. Honestly, I don't go to too many functions, but I'm climbing the corporate ladder, so I do expect to have more functions which I need to go to more and more. So I think having this is a really good option to have. Yeah, so if you are considering buying a vintage bag, definitely I think it's a good thing to consider, right? The price, I think if you can look past some of the the old, there is like an old feeling to it, but I think that's part of the charm. I believe I heard people say that there's a fine line between looking dated and also having its charm. So I think this is where you need to find where that line is for you. Okay, for those who love leather, actually, I don't know why, but the smell of this bag just love it, right? I don't know how to describe this scent. Let me just smell it real quick. It's just, there's no storage smell. It's just a smell of something very homey and very nostalgic. I really don't know how to describe the smell. Yeah. I'm not too sure whether other bags of this leather, like the S2 leather, have a similar smell. But you know, I wouldn't be surprised. It's just, you know, let's say you do find another like a vintage bag, you know, to give it a sniff to see whether, you know, do you like it or not. And yeah, still so beautiful, especially with the chains over like this. Okay, and that's all for my video. Just a disclaimer again, I'm not an expert when it comes to authenticating bags, you know. I do my own research and I just compare and contrast, and even though I do my research, I'm still not an expert. Okay, so to each their own. Please do your own research, and I usually would always recommend going physically to take a look at the bag before you buy it, because lighting and angle really changes a lot of things. If you look onto pre-love sites, yeah, I still think going there physically is the best, to feel the bag, to smell the bag, to see whether it fits you in person. Okay, so that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a bit lengthy. I'm still pretty new to YouTube, so I'll be sharing more about the other bags which I have. That includes more entry level bags, middle tier kind of luxury bags like Balenciaga. I don't have that many, but I'd love to share my journey with them with you. Alright, that's all. Thank you. See you next time. Bye bye.